So we have just had our first look at the upcoming mission rules for the new edition of 40k, and it looks like a mix of the current system as well as the old Tempest of War cards that some older players may remember are going to be the way 10th edition works for your games going forward. In the core rules, there is just one new mission, which is called Only War, and this seems to be a very simple, balanced, basic, easy to get started way of playing. They do clarify board sizes, with both 1 and 2k games being on a 44 by 60 inch table, and 3k games jumping up to a 44 by 90 inch board size. There are going to be 4 objectives that players alternate setting up, and then the game is based around interacting with those and using the new mission deck to change how you approach the game and how you grab the objectives and what points they give you and what you are essentially trying to achieve over the course of the game. The mission deck itself is a brand new system for choosing how your game will play out. And this is again a very simple, straightforward looking chart to help guide you through the process. Essentially how it works is you have a set of cards, and these are in various decks. So you have the deployment deck, the mission rule deck, the primary and secondary decks, and also this new idea of a Gambit deck. You select a deployment, a mission rule, and a primary mission, and this is what both players will adhere to in terms of how they set up, what the mission entails, and what both players are aiming to achieve. And they do show off a few examples of this. So for instance, the mission rule of sweep and clear, that means that when you control an objective at the end of your command phase, it stays in your control even if you move off it. So it's kind of like the super duper obsec that Marines got not that long ago, and means that when you grab an objective, your squad can then move off and go do other things to contribute to the game, while still grabbing you victory points for holding that objective. And then they also show off one of the primary missions, which is again a pretty generic one, take and hold. It means that you get 5 VP for each objective you hold, up to 15 VP a turn in your command phase. So if you hold 3 of the 4 game objectives in your command phase, that will net you your 15 victory points per turn. Like now, in addition to the primary mission, there are also secondaries. However, each player now selects 2 of these, and these are kind of like now additional objectives that you are shooting to achieve over the course of the game. The interesting thing here is that there are now 2 types of these objectives. There are either fixed missions, which stay in place the whole battle, so they're a bit more reliable, or you can choose tactical missions, and these are replaced with another randomly drawn objective whenever you complete the previous one. So they are a bit more random and potentially a bit riskier because you don't know what you're going to be asked to do. But conversely, they also come with higher rewards as well. And again, they show off a couple of these. They show off Capture Enemy Outpost, which means if you control an enemy objective at the end of your turn, you get 8 victory points. And then also Overwhelming Force, which means every time an enemy unit that started the turn within range of an objective is destroyed, you get 3 victory points to a maximum of 5. You may also notice, looking at your screen now, that there are some objectives for the attacker and some for the defender. So this distinction of whether you are attacker or defender looks like it is going to play a bit more of a role in the games in 10th edition. It seems like attacker objectives are going to be giving you reasons to move up and into the battle and into no man's land and the enemy's territory to claim objectives or do certain things with your opponent's objectives, whilst the defender focused ones are more aimed at just keeping ground and keeping your opponent away from certain areas and objectives. So that is, I think, a nice little addition which should help to make that choice of attacker or defender a bit more than just deciding which deployment zone you're going to set up in. The final thing they show off today is the brand new innovative feature for 10th edition, which is the Gambit System. The Gambit cards are a way in which, if the game isn't going your way, if you are losing ground, you can't get the objectives done, and it just seems like your opponent is running away with the victory, you can still make a last-minute clutch effort to steal victory from the jaws of defeat. They are, as the article states, your ace in the hole. And at the end of the 3rd battle round, you can choose to play your Gambit card, and both players choose one at the start of the game. And when you do play it, your original mission, the primary mission for that game, is basically kaput. You don't care about getting it anymore. Instead, you have this new objective to go for. So essentially, you keep your secondaries and you keep any victory points you've accumulated up to this point, but now you are no longer playing for that primary objective, you instead have another goal. And it's worth noting, they are tough to achieve. They are not meant to be easy, they are a last-minute ditch effort, but they do give you a huge amount of victory points, so they can very, very much swing the game back into your favour if you do manage to achieve it. The way it works is that you randomly discard one card from the Gambit deck, and the Gambit deck is a set containing 3 different Gambits, and you choose the one you want to go for. There is also a Proceed as Planned Gambit card, which lets you just keep playing the primary as normal, so there is a certain amount of mind games and trickery and second guessing you can force against your opponent to make them not sure whether you are just going to keep playing the primary or if you're going to go for some weird wild Gambit objective instead. But the main one they show us today is this Orbital Strike Gambit, and it is, as I said, not easy. Essentially, you have to, at the end of your 5th turn, have a unit which isn't battle shocked within 9 inches of a battlefield corner and not in your deployment zone. And if you do, you roll 2d6 and then you add 1 for each other corner of the battlefield which you have units in which again aren't battle shocked or in engagement range of an enemy, and on a 12+, you achieve this Gambit and you get a whopping 30 victory points. So the fluff of it essentially seems to be you are losing, so you just call down this massive orbital strike on the entire battlefield, and you need to get as many of your units to the corners outside the strike radius as you can before the entire area is just totally obliterated. It is very, very cool thematically, and as you can see, it is very, very difficult to achieve. Because rolling a 12+ on 2d6, even adding in the potential extra 3 you could get for having units in every corner, it's still a very unlikely prospect. So this really is a last-ditch effort. But for 30 VP, if the game is going badly anyway, this could potentially shoot you all the way into the lead and win the game for you. So I do have to say, I really, really love this system. I love the simplification of things in how you go about organizing the game and sorting out primaries and secondaries, but they have still added in that hint of complexity with these Gambit cards, and having a secret backup objective if things aren't going your way means that even in games when you're getting totally demolished by turn 2, you can still potentially turn it around and squeeze out a victory, which I think is really cool from a fluff perspective. And it also makes games less feels bad. If you have maybe a couple of bad turns of dice rolling in the early game, you still know that you can potentially rely on the Gambit and turn things around even if you've had a couple of bad turns early on. I personally cannot wait to give some of these new missions and objectives a go and seeing just what else we get in terms of Gambits as 10th edition evolves. But for me anyway, for now, this looks to be a great step forward towards making the missions fun, making them engaging all the way through from start to finish, and potentially adding in a bit more of a mind play mechanic as you try to trick your opponent into guessing what Gambit you may or may not have. But as always, what do you guys think? Do you like what we've been shown of the missions so far? And what other Gambits do you think we may see over the course of 10th edition? Let me know down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later guys.